Absolutely.
Just to kick it off, I think if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know couple years ago you had a number of people that you were coaching. What's that number up to today, or how many
So
hours?
let's see. So we finally hit 10,000 hours of one-on-one coaching, and we hit that in the last week of June. So we had been
Wow.
tracking it. I had always tracked it, right, on the coaching side of things because when I first started coaching with, you know, obviously being an integral part of what Jay and Mike were doing. Mike and I go back to the junior high school days. So that connection runs that deep. We were actually first roommates together in college.
Oh, wow.
And and so obviously college didn't work for any of us. Mikey
Me
left.
neither.
Yeah, me either. Mikey left Lawton, went back to Texas into the Colony area, and I went to California. So I stayed in California for about 3.5, 4 years. Came back and went to work for high school friends, serial entrepreneurs. And what was really cool with that experience, they brought me in on the operational side, and it's always easier looking back. He had a business partner, and they were doing on the road. They were doing a lot of construction work, the rough frame, and then they would come do the punch outs for a lot of the franchise restaurants. The Chili's, the Applebee's, the Bone Daddies. So we did a bunch of banks. We did a bunch of stuff just all over the country,
Mhm.
and obviously it was fun. Being really single. Kind of going through that aspect. And then ended up having my first kid, and I said, "Dude, I'm off the road." But during that time, we ended up selling that construction company. We had a lawn and landscape, sold that company, had partnered with another guy on assigned manufacturing and installation and maintenance and neon company. Ended up selling that, and we got into the garbage business, and we landed a contract at a paperboard company that made sheetrock. And within landing the contract, we sold to Waste Management 13 months later. And we were literally, this was 2003. We were like, none of us we had no business, nothing. We'd sold everything. And so we thought it would be a good idea to own a bar. And
Oh, great.
so that was we started January 1st, 2004. And I handled obviously all the operational stuff, come in every morning, make sure everything's good to go. And I could walk in, I could tell you exactly what was going to be missing. I could tell you exactly how the night went. Just by walking in, I could just see and smell and see everything. 128 straight days, and I was like, this ain't working. And so Mikey caught wind that I was about to jump from those guys. And I mean, I've been best friends with him since seventh grade, eighth grade, who I was working with. And I'm like, dude, I gotta go. Like, I can't do this. I've got a 2-year-old, a newborn. Marriage is going the opposite direction. I said, this ain't for me. I'm out. And so Mikey caught wind and made the introduction to Kinder in October of '04. And that was the first time I've ever met Kinder. And listen, Lawton, Oklahoma, the entire county is 100,000 people. There's like 35,000, 36,000 rooftops. And max, there's 2,800 to 3,000 total sides that actually happen in a given real estate year. And what was crazy is I had never met him, right? Here we are in the bar scene, best friend who'd working with, super connected. My dad has been in the public school system. He's a Hall of Fame coach. I never met the dude. I never met Kinder, but I knew him because of you couldn't go anywhere without hearing him on the radio. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing his signs. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing his billboards. You just you knew the guy, right? And so that was just one of the ahas and lessons. I was like, man, branding and just being able to mass market and blanket to where the attention is. That was just like an aha and a lesson. So the office was being remodeled. Met him in October of '04 and came on board 2 weeks later. We closed out 340 transactions in '04. I really didn't have, obviously, I was there November, December, but I always like to say, man, Kinder was like a go fast boat motor on the back of a rowboat. Is exactly what was going on. It was chaos, but it was like get after it, let's go chaos.
Yeah.
In '05, we did 430 transactions, and then '06, when we hit top 10 in the world for Coldwell Banker, we did 531. We had over 20% market share, and we got smoked by a top 10 Remax team. They did about 150 more transactions than we did.
Wow.
Their team and our team had over 50% market share that year. So like we were just, but the thing is, like EXP needed real. EXP needed that push, because think about the things that wouldn't have changed if we didn't have that push here at EXP. We wouldn't have co-sponsorship. Like I guarantee you, we would not have co-sponsorship if it wasn't for real.
Yeah.
And you look at the things and the moves and obviously being, category killer, whatever you want to say it, like it's healthy, right? Coke needs Pepsi. Like you've got to have that healthy competition. You have to have that push, because it forced us every day to keep our foot on the gas, right? We could never get complacent in what we were doing. The other beautiful thing in Lawton, Oklahoma was our average sales price was only 120,000. So details matter. Every penny matters, right? So that was the big get for us. And then things blew up in '07. And this is why I'm so adamant about vision. And what is the vision that we have for the organization? What is the vision we're having? Because without a vision, the village will perish. Without a vision, the people that your talent, if they don't believe they can accomplish their dreams by being a part of your vision, then they're going to go somewhere else to where they can. Right. So that's always my question, right? That's always like, what's the vision? What's the goal? What are we trying to accomplish? And so in '07, we had Jay and Michael had started traveling a lot, speaking a lot, and the goal was to write a book called Coachable. That was the game plan. That's what we were going to do. And there started this over the web technology started to come out, right? So like you could be on your website, and if you guys remember this, to where all of a sudden you could come walking out on top of somebody's website. So we had gotten into the 3D web with kind of that technology and kind of going that route. Well, keep in mind, while we're growing in 4, 5, 6, we were one of the first adopters to Howard Tiger Lee's program. I don't know if you guys remember any of that from the CRM side of things. And so we were the first early adopters into that. We were also the first early adopters with Greer into Boomtown. We were the first adopters into Commissions Inc. with Dwayne Legate, when Commissions Inc. was the worst tool ever invented for real estate. It was horrible. But so we kind of go through that and getting distracted, kind of going all over the place. And there was no vision. There was absolutely no vision. And at that time, being in Lawton, Oklahoma, and you guys know this, once you get cranking, this is what I tell agents, right? When you get cranking, other doors start opening. You got to know the vision. You got to know what you're going to say yes to, and more importantly, what you're going to say no to, because a lot of doors are going to open. Well, we were doing rehabs, remodels. We're probably doing 15 to 20 of those a year. We got into developments. We did an in-town and then a rural development. We were doing new construction. I mean, we owned the title company. We owned the mortgage company. Like we were ranking.
Yep.
But no vision. And
It's
so
the shiny object syndrome. You're always chasing the next thing.
So Kinder disappears quite a bit. And we had a business partner that we were partners with on all the rehabs and the remodels. He was there every day. Obviously, he's talking about a vision. And so I don't believe I can accomplish what I want to accomplish with Kinder anymore. So I'm like, we got to go do our own thing. So me, our number one agent, our number two agent, our number one admin, or one of our top admins, we go start our own company. We become competitors with Jay in July of 2007. And Kinder and I didn't talk for over 2 years. And he tried to get me to have a conversation about a year and a half in, right? And, the lesson was, it was a leadership lesson for both of us. It was leadership, be assertive, right? push the envelope. Where are we at? What's the vision? Push on it. And then the other was Kinder is like, got to have a vision. And so we finally, buried the hatchet, both, let our egos aside, and we got back together in 2010, which then became the whole foundation for Kinder Reese coaching, which ultimately became NAEA, National Association of Expert Advisors, helped build out CHSA, CHBA, and three things that fundamentally changed everything for us and everything that we taught, right? You look at the kind of our DNA over the industry is just, it's fun, right? To see, because I'm like, coach that person. Oh, we help that person. And you look at the icons in the industry, we've got a little bit of a footprint on so many out in the industry. And so the first thing was strategic planning, and how important to having a strategic plan that really helped you put things together, from the vision, the big picture, to, what's that big, hairy, audacious goal? What are your core values? Like the whole vision component, and understanding, the goal. And we're working in 90-day cycles. And we really just became a student of Vern Harnish with Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. We went on to work with Vern. We're students, went through scaling up with them and everything. So I look back, and I used to always say the second and third thing were the two things that allowed us to get out of Lawton and get out of that brokerage, get out of that market. But the first was strategic planning. So when Kendra and I got back together in 2010, we went all in, and we were disciplined for every year for over a decade, because we came over to EXP in 2017. We still continued that. I still do it to this day. I do it religiously every 90 days for every company that we've ever owned. We were so disciplined from 2010 all the way through 20 with every company, everything we did. When we started Honey Badger Nation, we went down through the whole process of strategic planning.
Wow.
And just how important it is, right? We moved out of scaling up and we moved into EOS because the VTO and what Gino had, answer the 8 questions. It was just so much easier. Like, it was easy versus where Vern took scaling up. And what I've learned, you're good with EOS up to about 10 million in revenue. 10 million in revenue, you got to go back to Vern. You got to go back to the scaling up tools.
Yep.
And so working through that. The second thing was us developing CHSA, Certified Home Selling Advisor, proven repeatable system backed by market research to help sell your home up to 18% more than a traditional real estate agent. Listen, I haven't been in a home in 2012, but I promise you I can walk in with that presentation and I can execute it flawlessly, just because every day, at least 2 to 3 hours, role playing, going through it, just over and over
The
and
SOPs
over
are
and
just
over.
completely ingrained into you.
It's just hard. It's just like, I can't shake it, right? I can't shake it. So I'm in Matt and DJ's office. So they're number one team in PA here in Pittsburgh. And so I live, I've been coaching them for 5 years. And so I'm in their office, 3 or 4 days a week.
Yep.
And it's funny, I was just talking to them, right? Their annual golf tournament's coming up, and Matt's been getting lessons. And I'm like, fuck, man, I've been playing golf for 41 years. Like literally, I still we've heard the stories, right? Like you'll see people that will the golf stories, like guy goes away to war for 2-3 years, comes back and plays better because he visualizes in his mind the reps of the golf swing and everything.
That's like the Olympians. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just wild. So having CHSA and a proven system, right? Because think about the era before that, right? It was the Me Monster presentation. Look at my awards. Look at me. Look, this is why you should work with me. Look at me. Look at me.
Yeah.
But that doesn't scale, right? We couldn't send somebody else in on those appointments without having that. So being able to develop that, got Kinder out of production, could go in, and it was going to be the same process every time. And that's when we started focusing on lifetime value, net promoter scores, right? And just really focused on experience that they would have. So that was the second thing. The third thing, and listen, it took us 3 times to get Kinder out of production. And so that was the second thing. And then that started to make that happen. And then in 2011, being disciples and students of Vern Harnish, his newsletter is still to this day the one I look at every week. There's about two to three. There's two that I look religiously, a third that I will most of the time look at, but I look at Vern's newsletter every week. The only thing that I hate opening is that I usually get a new book. And when in 2011, he introduced a book from Greg Crabtree called Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits. And that book, so Greg is a former IRS auditor, CPA, and he started focusing and working with small business entrepreneurs, Main Street business, people that could just like, I don't have time to understand all of the financial stuff. He's like, great, you don't need to. You only need to know 5 numbers. And that's where we learned, top line revenue, profit, net profit before taxes, gross profit, how much are you paying the agents, how much company dollar do you have coming in? Then you got salaries and expenses. And within your expenses, you have a percentage of allocation to marketing. And so he just like ingrained that into us. And he actually wrote the cash version in Scaling Up for Vern. But we, just like us at that time, we immersed ourselves into everything. I mean, we flew Greg to Dallas, Mike's team, us, and the coaching team. Like we all sat down with Greg and like we started working with him like pretty hardcore, and he helped us nail the model. Those 3 things changed everything for us, and allowed us to get out of Lawton to where we pursued the coaching organization, but we also started the brokerage. And this is the power of having a strong vision. And so what we tried to emulate what we did in Lawton and Dallas, but that doesn't work, right? When you're in a mass market that's going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars to own mind share, you got to go a different path. So literally I had the check on my desk to go to the radio station. And we sat back, and at that time we went down to one of Gary's trainings in Austin. But it ultimately ended up being around the ISA side of things. So we met Tim Heil down there, and Diana was still Kaios, how to pronounce her last name, but Diana was still she was still head of all the coaching and training and maps. So we got to meet with Tim and met with her, and it really helped us formulate. So when we came back to Dallas, we launched the call center. So we had 10 ISAs, and our promise to our agents, our partners, where we were going to get them 4 new listings in their market service area. That was our value proposition. And we were charging agents $10,000 to join us. And then we put them on a 50-50 split with the value proposition that we're going to help you dominate, become the King Kong in your market service area. And so we started mapping out Dallas. We were at 18. Oh no, hey, we can get 20. Oh, let's stretch it to 24. We need to do this. We took down a partner, our first regional partner in Atlanta. Like we were going the partner route. And here's what's funny. Our big, hairy, audacious goal is we wanted 2,000 partners by like December the 27th, 2027. It was like crazy. And so we're going down that route. We had a regional partner, and we had 17 other partners. We had, another 20 agents, buyer agents and stuff under that. And Al Stasek. And so I'm coaching Al at this time. And I have been coaching Al since I've been coaching Al since 2012, 2013, and here it is 2017. Al's out of production. Al has his own call center. He's actually running a call center with his head ISA. They started a call center. This is where Nick Krim was one of the first hires into the call center. And they're calling for Cheplat's product. So they're out trying to sell Chep's recruiting software out of that call center. And Al gets Christmas in July. His top 2 agents, about 600,000 in GCI. See ya, Al. We're going to start our own team at KW. And so at that time, the best option was KW or independent. And I took probably 24 of the top teams independent, because that was the move, right? You either go to KW or you go independent. That was the move. And so we're independent. We're independent in Texas. Al's independent. And he's like, bro, I'm not going back into production. And we joke, right? Like you get out of production, it's like getting out of jail. And then when you got to go back into production, it's like going back to jail. And so Al then finally listens to Cliff. and Cliff had been, bro, check this out, man. Tell me what I'm missing. Tell him what I'm not seeing. Stasek watches the video. He sends it to me. Obviously, I'm coaching him. So he sends it to me and he said, bro, I need you to watch this. And I started watching it and I was like, dude, I started watching this 6 months ago, but I stopped watching it because when you get so fixated on what you're trying to do, and that's the whole outcome over ego, right? Ego is trying to be right. Outcome is trying to get to right. Well, we thought we had the model, right? We thought we had it and
Yep.
nobody didn't
Yep.
pay attention. Well, now Christmas in July, we're forced to look at this. And I go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I'm like, I don't see why you don't do this. And he said, okay, let's get Jay, have Jay look at it. And then Jay tells the story, right, where he's pacing at his son's birthday party out back. And his wife's like, what the heck are you doing? I mean, he's talking to Al. So between Jay, me, and Al, I bet there was 20 hours that we were just talking through this.
Yep.
Then Brent Gove gets on the phone. He says, okay, boys, I need you guys to come to Fort Lauderdale, September. You're going to have breakfast with the president. You're going to have lunch with the CEO and founder, and you're going to have cocktails with the GOAT. Okay, cool. Trust you. Go. Gove, we love you. Like, whatever you need, we'll be there. Because we've known Gove, when he wasn't even Gove, right? We knew Gove. And he, we get to Fort Lauderdale, and literally walking in the first night they doing the awards, and we're standing back there and it feels like an NAEA conference, and they're doing the awards, and I'm like, holy shit, I coached them. Who is that? Oh my gosh, right? Like, so it just felt like it was home, it was family.
Mhm.
And so the next morning we have breakfast with Vicky Bartholomew. Vicky was the president at the time. We had lunch, and it was in the back room downstairs at the hotel in Fort Lauderdale. And there were 400 people at EXPCon that year,
Wow.
2017. There were 400, and they just celebrated 4,000 agents coming to EXP.
Wow.
We have lunch, and it's straight out of a mob movie. It is the coolest thing. And you've got Gove, Gaydosh, Stasek. There's a couple dozen people all sitting around. So me and Jay sitting just right across from the two of you. And it was Glenn and Jason guessing. And we sit there and listen to Glenn to start to tell the vision of EXP. And I'm already a vision guy, right? I left Kindred because there was no vision. And so coming back together, there we had a vision.
Yep.
And then we had the big vision of partner. And so getting to listen to Glenn share the vision of EXP and where the direction is going. And I remember when we got up and I looked at Kendra and I said, I was in, bro. I said, but I'm way in. And I got to hear about the values, and I got to hear about what, Glenn wants to do to the industry and what EXP is going to be for the beacon of real estate across the planet. And so we kind of go through, it was awesome. Anyway, happy hour was with Gene Frederick, right? So we had happy hour with the GOAT. And, we went back and came on board. And I remember being in, Orlando 2018 for shareholders, listening to the update on all the things that EXP had accomplished. And I'm like, that dude told us he was going to do that. He was going to do that. He was going to do that. Basically being able to see him execute at a pace that we had never seen. Right. And you got to think, in NAEA days, we had the best of the best. And so being able to see that execution was just, I was like, I'm in. And being a vision guy, I know the components of it. So what's the purpose, but also what are the core values? How are we making decisions? And being able to see from 2017 throughout 2021, 22, all of the decisions that were being made were all in alignment to the core values. So you go back to why EXP? Why EXP is because of what they stand for, the values, the platform. It's all about agents first. It's about being agile, trying to move through this challenging market, but also sustainability. That was the big one for me with EXP. And when I started to realize every decision they make is because they want EXP to be sustainable. And so you get to a point to where you see enough proof, you don't question it anymore. Okay. I know they're making that move because it's sustainable for the long haul. And you guys know this, right? You're either building a business for forever or you're building a business to sell. And it's never been about selling. It's about building and changing the industry with what he did. So to me, that's why EXP. But I'm so grateful for the spinoffs, because that's what pushes and continues to to stay agile, to keep making the company better. And it's just really cool to be able to see that and see the evolution, and also the change of the market. And because you outgrow people. It's just, you do. And especially at the phases of business. One of our mentors, Clayton Mask, who had built Infusionsoft, and then they had cashed out and then went to change the name of it. And I think they finally sold out. But Clayton really focused in on leadership, but he had a principle called ones and threes. The people that get you to 1 million won't get you to 3. The people that get you to 3, that won't get you to 10. People that get you to 10 won't get you to 30. People that get you to 30 won't get you to 100. And so just being able to see as EXP grows, how they navigate with the people component, and then being able to look, okay, shoot, we're not in a tailwind anymore. We're in a full on headwind. We need a wartime general. I'm not saying that Glenn can't be a wartime general, but Leo's a wartime general. So being able to put the right general in the right seat at the right time. And that's, I know that's a kind of long-winded backstory, but also
No, I mean, it tells the whole story. And I went to Top Producers in I don't know, we were in Texas a couple months ago, and just even hearing like Leo's plan for 2.0 and rolling out the multiple CRMs and giving us just so many options, just show that like we're future proof.
Yeah, always.
So I mean, 10,000 hours of coaching. I mean, they say, you master something after 10,000 hours of studying it. You have taught it for 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
What is probably the most common thing a brand new client, when they sign up day one, what's their most common complaint, or what's their most common thing they're missing?
I mean, it changes kind of based upon the season and kind of where they're coming in. One, it's always just a lack of clarity. It's a lot of confusion, overwhelm. I'm trying to say yes to everything instead of, the real essence of strategy is the ability to say no, right? And it's not that we usually die of starvation. It's just like we're trying to choke on and trying to do too much. And so we got to really, really narrow that down, seems to be the biggest thing. And it's once some, you're able to get that sense of clarity, then it's all about putting the right plan in place. The biggest thing too is that a lot of agents, especially coming in, they don't have that big, hairy, audacious goal, or they've lost sight of that goal, or their goal isn't big enough. And as we're wired to solve problems, and it's like the agents come in, and this, every brand new agent, how much do you want to make this year? I want to make $100,000, right? They always want to make 6 figures. And it's like, okay, well, great. But what would you have to do if you had to make $100,000 a month? Right. So you just get them to think bigger, think a little bit differently. And it's one of the the best things that we've been able to do for agents for a long time, right? Over that 10,000 hours has been a little over 13 years, and 17,000 one-on-one coaching calls. So a lot in the one-on-one space. So owning and operating brokerage in small town Lawton, Oklahoma, being an owner, really strategic advisor on the Dallas brokerage side of things, working with Alex and Michael day in and day out, navigating that growth. And then, 2012, when we started Mastermind, started the one-on-one coaching game. And, the reason we started tracking it is because when I first got into coaching, I went to a lot of the like foundational of like really truly how to coach from a life coach type perspective, because the one thing that I know that is the most thing that comes with the clarity is it's all about mindset.
Yeah.
It's everything mindset. It's always layers deeper. And so you got to be able to, have a way to navigate, to get down to the real root of what's causing it. And my coach gave me the tool of smoke and fire, right? Like a lot of the stuff that you get from another human being is all smoke. And you got to know how to navigate, get out of the smoke and get into the fire, which is conflict resolution. So how do you work and get down there and then help put the fire out? So there's so much more of that. But when I started coaching, they're like, listen, you can get certain accredited, certain designations and things, which I never pursued, but they go, you got to be able to show it. And it's like, okay, well, I'll just track it in my calendar. And then we just tally it up at the end of every month. And that's how we know where we're at with the number of calls and the number of hours.
And that's, one of those fundamentals, you can't manage what you don't measure, right?
That's right.
And
That's right.
it's just getting in there and, I feel like I had a good week this week. Well, what statistics do you have?
Go back and show me the calendar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Show me the calendar.
What exactly did you do to make that good week?
Yeah. Well, then how do you
Yeah.
duplicate it? How do you do it all over again?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you make that happen every single day.
Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to in the future?
I think it's leaning into the AI era that we're in and how to strategically utilize AI the right way. As the book and Kindle was the one that kind of said like, dude, you have to get this book. I was at the EXP rally in Seattle. Clients, Jacob and Elizabeth Weaver, they hosted and ran the Seattle rally. And Georgia was she was our icon agent that we had her come in there.
Cool.
And then obviously being, right there in Glenn and Debbie's backyard, they were there. So we had I had Phil Stringer come in. So Stringer kind of helped navigate. They did a little fireside chat at the end, but we did a VIP experience the night before that we sold tickets to. Maybe something to think about with what you guys are trying to pull off in Buffalo on that Friday. Maybe there's a VIP experience on Thursday night, upgrade on the ticket sale. That's what we did. So we sold about 75. We sold 75 VIP, and they had a little bit of a buffet. They had a couple open bars, and then it was just we had us all up at the front, right? And Jacob had the questions, and so he just started asking questions. And Glenn obviously Glenn's head is all AI. It's amazing to understand just listening to him and Kendall, how they're running the number one brokerage on the planet with custom GPTs and AI in all of the decisions that they're making. But Kendall was like, listen, dude, you've got to listen to The AI Driven Leader by Jeff Woods. And it is the book. And that's kind of the foundation of how to leverage AI as your thought partner. But it's all about you being the best version of you, strategically thinking and navigating into the future. And so it was really cool to kind of go through that. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about, kind of this mess middle that we're in with, agents that aren't built for headstorm, for the headwind, that are looking to we're going to have to kind of work them out and continuing to bring the people that are built for this type of market to come in. And so I think it's shaping back to the way to where, real expertise, real skill, the ability to, articulate your value, how to talk to people, how to build relationships, how to negotiate, the fundamental skills that it takes to set yourself apart in this market, in any market, right? That you're able to really differentiate yourself from the skilled and not skilled. So I'm really excited about getting back into that. Because you guys know, we rode that market for so long. And so being able to get back into the skill side of things.
Going back to being in real estate and proving your value, where in the last few years you can put a doghouse up for sale and sell it. Yeah, what I mean?
Multiple offers.
Sell it to a cat, what I mean?
Yeah, seriously.
And
that was another thing that burned in my brain. I'm like agreeing with you completely. Glenn, in one of his keynotes at EXPCon, I believe, said AI won't replace realtors. Realtors using AI will replace ones that don't.
100%.
And ever since I heard that, like I'm replaying it right now, 2 years later.
Yeah.
And that's when I just dove in and said, you know what, like it's the other most common coaching thing you hear is, work smarter, not harder. And AI is allowing us the opportunity to multiply our efforts.
Right. Well, make it's decisions per, right? So if you're not moving as fast as you want to, it's because your decisions per is off. Your decisions per quarter, your decisions per month, your decisions per week, your decisions per day. The beauty with AI, it's one of the things that it can help you do is increase your decisions and make decisions and better decisions faster. And just how you use it to interview you and pull information out of you and give you the best information, the best advice, the best guidance instead of just telling you what you want to hear. And I think that's where, it's just input, what you put in is what you're going to get out. So the better thought that you can have, the better framework and the better way to think about things, the better the output is going to be for you. And those are the agents and those are the humans that are going to excel. The other interesting to think about, even from an AI perspective, we're talking about the AI agent, but what about the AI consumer? And we already know the biggest complaint that buyers and sellers have is that they believe they know more than the real estate agent. And probably 60-70% of the time that is true. So, as the consumer's getting smarter, how do you stay out ahead? And that's where you have to be that thought leader. You have to be that expert. You got to know the market better than what they're able to find through Grok, through GPTs, and just know the market, know the local market, know the ins and outs, know the connections. You have to be able to navigate that ship at a much higher level and just be like, okay, right? You never want to assume intelligence for another human being, but you got to assume they're going to be a little more equipped and a little bit smarter than you want to possibly give them credit for, and already know what they're thinking of you. So how do you position yourself? So I think it's just a great time to be able to separate yourself from, the herd of agents that are down here that,
will come with a value first mentality.
That's it.
Yeah.
Every time.
Oh. Well, geez, we asked you for 15 minutes. I appreciate the time.
Well, thanks for letting me tell the story. It's always
the
good.
passion shows your success. It truly does. And I mean, hearing the whole story, I mean, that's the old hero's journey, right? You had to go through the breakup to know that, you came so much more powerful on the other end.
Yeah.
And what you've built it's amazing.
Yeah.
And we really do appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, man.
Any last thoughts? Because I do want to respect your calendar. I'm sure you get to jump to the next Zoom after this.
Yeah, right into the next one. No, I think the biggest thing is, it's everything falls and dies on leadership. And, obviously the number one rule of leadership is lead by example. And it's the whole, your business is in direct proportion to the size of your leadership capabilities. So it's like you first. You have to be the best version of you first. And then I'm just because I know my strengths and my weaknesses, I have to have a great team around me. And if you've gone through Working Genius, tenacity is a frustration. So that's you got to have good people around you that can execute. And the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now, the agents that, even let's say get that success, get into the 7-figure range, but they get stuck in that 1 to 3. Hermosi calls that the swamp. And you can get to that million, but you're gonna hang out there because you're not gonna be able to get to 3s because what I said earlier, you don't have the right team around you. And if you look at a lot of agents right now, especially that have built something to get to that 7-figure top line revenue number, is that the team that got them there is not the team that's going to allow them to continue to grow going into the future. Because that team, think about it, they put that team together when there was a little bit of a tailwind.
Yeah.
The winds have shifted. The people that got you there with the tailwind are not the same people that are going to get you to that next step in a headwind. So once you have that level of clarity, knowing where the goal you want to go, you got to take inventory of the people around you. It's the team that matters the most right now.
That is such a great question to ask a broker or a team leader, is that the team you have in place today, are they going to get you where you think you're going to go?
Most of them are outcome over ego. And if they sit back and reflect and they are honest, if they are honest, they know in their gut, they know every time, 10 times out of 10, the answer is going to be no.
Yeah. That's
and my big humbling this, and I fought EXP for 6 months. I had a website, I had a CRM, I had a training platform. What do they have that I don't? I fought it tooth and nail.
Yeah.
And my sponsor ultimately said to me, he goes, "Are you the smartest guy in the room?" And I'm like, "I have to be." He goes, "You're in the wrong room."
You got the wrong team if you're the smartest one on the team too.
Yeah. And I wore all the hats. And once I
That's
gave
it.
that up, now
Yeah.
it's just like, wait, we have how many countries now? I
Uh-huh.
called my company 716 at one time. I mean, that's my area. People in the adjoining neighborhoods were like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't sell in this neighborhood." And now it's like, I mean, we're communicating with people all around the world.
All over the world. It's so awesome. You know, there's nothing wrong with being the smartest one if you want to build a lifestyle, right? And you're just doing this just to build a lifestyle. But if you truly want, to have a vision, to have an impact and build a business, you got to be one of the dumbest ones on the team, right? You're really good at what you do, right?
Yep.
So if you're head of company, you have certain vital things that you do, but
Yep.
you may have a strong sense on the sales, you may have a strong sense on the marketing, but you're going to be deficient somewhere. So get somebody better than you in that seat that can get you to that next level. And
Yep.
then
Yep. The old
and it's
Henry
going to change
Ford
again.
method.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the old jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and hey, I've been there. We take pride in that hat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's that. What's the goal? And just challenging yourself. Is that really the goal? And if we had to go way out there, impossible goal, and an impossible timeline. And I love what Jeff Woods says in that book, and we can wrap with this. Is that it's not about the goal. It's about who you have to become in order to be in pursuit to achieve that goal.
Yes. Very good.
That's what it's about. It's about who you have to become.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, hopefully there was some nuggets in there for you guys that you
Yeah,
guys can
there's
use.
one or two, Jack.
There's nothing but nuggets in there. I mean, the funny thing is, whenever I end a meeting, I always say, "What are the 3 keys?" And my 3 keys are the last 45 minutes. So I truly do appreciate your
Yeah.
time.
Hopefully
Yeah.
we'll see you October 17th.
Hey, give me the details. I got it on the calendar and we'll make it happen.
Okay.
Sweet. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Appreciate it, man.
All right. Appreciate
Thanks,
you guys.
Johnny.
Have a good
See
one.
ya.
Okay. Talk to
Bye.
you soon.